The Green Bay Packers beat themselves on Sunday afternoon, putting Detroit firmly in position to win the NFC North early. Was it as bad as we thought? Did the Packers actually play well? A little bit of both. A little bit of both. Let's get into it. Good morning, and thank you for enjoying it with Six Pack, the Scotty Six Pack, the only podcast talking all things Wisconsin sports at ya. Whenever we do these these days. I'm your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris and follow the podcast at Scotty Six Pack for the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. Yes, we are here talking about the Green Bay Packers, despite the fact that it's the first day of the college basketball season. We'll have plenty to come on that in college basketball season. Now to April-ish. But I want to talk about this Packers loss. The Packers lose by 10 points to the Detroit Lions, 24-14, a margin that could have easily been erased. And I want to get into the big picture stuff about the division at the very end. But overall, this is a 10-point game. A 10-point loss for Green Bay, in which you threw a pick six with the extra point, that's 7, and missed a field goal. That's 10 points. 10 points that your offense reasonably should have put on the board. You have drops all over. Go 1 for 4 in the red zone. Christian Watson can't connect on a deep ball. Can't track the ball through the air. In the red zone, Dontavian Wicks. Look, and I understand the throw was behind. I'm putting in air quotes because, yes, it's true, but behind Dontavian Wicks. But the ball smacked him on the hands. And I don't have a ton of patience for it's wet out there. And these football players have been playing outdoor football games their entire lives. Except if you're playing your college ball at Syracuse. You don't play in a dome unless you're playing your college ball at North Dakota State. You don't play in a dome. There are very few places where you are playing your college ball indoors. And you are not used to having to play in the elements, even if it's worse for everybody. And it's worse for both teams. And clearly, the Packers suffered more consequences there. Packers have 21 drops on the year. 21 drops on the year. To Detroit's 1. Detroit's singular drop. At a certain point, teams of an upper caliber make upper caliber plays. Do not fail to make those upper caliber plays. Detroit's a good football team, and they don't beat themselves. When it's not just the pick six, which, I'm going back to that for a second. The pick six that Jordan Love, in his post-game press conference, said Zach Tom kind of obscured his vision there. He didn't see Kirby Joseph because Zach Tom was covering him up in his line of sight. And so Jordan Love thought he had an easy throw to Josh Jacobs. Regardless, I think you've got to get rid of the ball there. Yeah. Just gross. Besides that, the penalties in this game, the penalties for the Packers really killed them. And I think, look, and it's hard to play the counterfactual game. It's hard to play the what if game, but I want to do it for a little bit here because I think there is a case to make that penalties took a significant amount of points off the board for the Packers in a way that Detroit's penalties did not impact it nearly as much. LaFleur in his post-game presser talked a lot about the penalty disparity and the Packers' failure to play a clean game. The Lions had 5 penalties for 51 yards. The Packers had 10 penalties for 67 yards. Of course, some of that penalty yardage for Detroit coming on the Brian Branch ejection and subsequent penalties after the fact, which I thought was pretty clearly the right call and has been, that's the way that's going to get called. And the fact that it's going to get called that way in the NFL should tell you a lot. But 67 yards on 10 penalties compared to Detroit's 5. The very first play of the game, the Green Bay Packers commit a penalty. Keyshawn Nixon, on the very first drive, Keyshawn Nixon gets the ball to the 40, returning the opening kickoff. And then he gets taken back 15 yards to the 25 for some after the whistle shenanigans. And I know that whistle, that flag didn't seem great, but you can't put yourself in that position. The drive could have started at the 40. The drive could have started at the 40. It was a 63-yard drive to open the game. Instead, it ends in a field goal. If that, again, I think it's hard to play the counterfactual game, but if that drive starts at the 40 and the Packers go 63 yards, that's a touchdown. That's 6 instead of the 3. That's 4 points of the 10 you need to make. Again, hard to play the counterfactual game. And then when you go to Detroit's ensuing first offensive drive, when Detroit goes up 7-3, Detroit gets the ball to 4th and goal, rather, at the 5. TJ Slayton gets called for encroachment. It's one thing to be aggressive on these short yardage plays when you know the other offense is elite and is probably going to convert, but you're at the 5-yard line. At the 5. You can't overextend yourself there. You need to put yourself in a position to make a play. You can't be forcing a play. Because at that point, then it becomes 4th and goal at the 3. And then they convert. And maybe that's not 7 points at all then. And not like maybe they throw the ball on 4th and 5. And Jared Goff obviously had not missed a receiver since. He was perfect to start the game. And so maybe it doesn't matter anyway. But again, hard to play the counterfactual game, but very easy to see how a 2-yard encroachment penalty makes that 4th and goal from the 3 as opposed to the 5 a lot easier to get 7 on. Very next drive for the Packers. It's 3rd and 3 at the Detroit 32. So we're talking about a 50-ish yard field goal, 49-50. And yeah, the weather is what it is. But I think you maybe let McManus try that. Maybe. I'm not sure. 3rd and 3 at the Detroit 32. Regardless, maybe you convert on 3rd and 3 at the Detroit 32. And Sean Ryan false start penalty. Okay. And then the Packers don't convert on 3rd and 8 at the Detroit 37. You're not really in field goal range in those conditions, rather. Oops. There's like a 5-yard fake delay of game penalty here, backing up the Packers to get a little bit more room to punt. Very next offensive drive for the Packers. A holding call on the punt return to begin that drive backs up the Packers to the 18-yard line of Detroit. Of Green Bay. Gosh, a lot of these weird little slip-ups. Man. Oops. Holding call to start that next ensuing drive. So now we are analyzing penalties, bad penalties on the first 3 offensive drives for the Packers that maybe took, 3-4 points here, there off the board for the Packers. That holding that backed up the Packers to the 18, that drive ended in a missed field goal. What if you had those 10 yards? and you start at the 28. Not to mention kicking that field goal that the Packers later missed. That drive ended on a set of downs that began on 1st and 15 because of a false start penalty by Romeo Doubs. I don't think it's absurd to think that you get those 3 points right there. I don't. At minimum 3 points on that missed field goal. And that missed field goal should have been easier. That holding call was, it's really not even making up that is impactful. If you go to running backs don't matter calculations, rbsdm.com, their calculations on win probability added had that holding call as the 6th most impactful play of the game. Ugh. So that missed field goal that got backed up 15 yards by penalties in that, right? 10 to start the drive, 5 on the set of downs that led to the missed field goal. There's 3 points. Let's say the very first drive isn't 3, it's maybe 7 if Keyshawn Nixon doesn't get them backed up. But even if you don't want to say that, what about the TJ Slayton encroachment call? There's another place to pick up 7 instead of 3 or 4. Pick 6, there's 7. Oh, Packers easily could have been in this game. And it wasn't like the defense beat them either. This is on the offense. Absolutely. This is on the offense. Because Jeff Hafley shut down an elite Detroit defense. Or an elite Detroit offense. Man, another one. I don't even have an excuse. I guess I haven't had coffee. They can help. That's a top 5 offense in Detroit. It's a really good unit. Came into this week 4th in offensive DVOA. Really, really good offensive unit. I really like Ben Johnson as play caller. And the Packers defense held it to only 17 points. 24 points on the board. You subtract out 7 from the pick 6. Only 7 points in the second half. Only points were on the first drive of the game. Or first drive of the second half. Damn, there's another one. The Packers did it without generating too much of a pass rush too, which is surprising considering that their secondary did not look good. They need a boundary corner real badly. And obviously they're not going to get one this season, but they need Jair back really badly. That's one thing in the bye week that you hope that you get back injury wise. Because Eric Stokes looks cooked. Keyshawn Nixon is not it as a number 1 boundary corner. He can be serviceable as a 2. Serviceable. But yeah, Keyshawn got cooked by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Didn't look great. Overall, this game's not on the defense. Defense did its job. Even situationally, the defense held the Lions to a field goal at the end of the first half, prevented the initial risk of a double up there because the Lions got the ball to start the second half, and then the pick 6 happens. A throw, again, which looked worse than the one Jordan Love made in the end zone against the Rams. Made from his own end zone. That pick 6, that touchdown drive to start the second half, and that field goal at the end of the first half by the Lions. That's a 17-point swing in 6 minutes of game time. Just 6 minutes. In the game, the Packers lost by 10. You got to win the middle 8, right? That's 17 points in 12 plays on the board for Detroit. This is a Lions team which isn't going to beat itself, and the Packers have proven themselves as a team that will beat itself. The Lions only had 211 yards of offense last week against the Titans and put up 50 points on the board. Packers had 411 yards of offense this week and 261 total yards given up to the Lions. It's a really, really, really impressive football team. I mean, one that I picked to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. And I feel good about that prediction today. One weird thing about, and I don't even necessarily know that it's weird. One weird, interesting thing about the defense is that Edgerrin Cooper got the third most snaps at off-ball linebacker behind Quay Walker, 1, and then Eric Wilson, who had, I think it was 5 more than Edgerrin Cooper. Eric Wilson has played good as of late. I don't think that's such a huge indictment on the staff. But yeah, still weird that, yeah, I don't know. But if Quay's the green dot, it's hard to make that adjustment away from him. Similarly, on snap counts, Tucker Kraft played every offensive snap of this game. And hey, the snap from under center, that's fun. That's fun. You love to see that wrinkle and love to see maybe a play off the play of that later on in the season. Keep an eye out. Because maybe they have him there and then motion him back outside and you do something funky. The Packers beat themselves because by net success rate, the Packers were better than the Lions on the field and lost by 10. Wow. That's rough. That's rough. Jordan Love. You just got to stop with these boneheaded throws. And there's just one too many of them, while there are also some real wow, amazing throws, like incredible throw and catch by Jaden Reed. But you're good for one amazing and one real boneheaded throw a game. And at this point, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. I struggle to come to the conclusion that a lot of it right now is based on Jordan Love being banged up. Although you're certainly happy to see the bye week come now and have a chance to get healthy. It's good. And it's not time to think the sky is falling. I think the reason you see such a negative sentiment in Packers fandom right now is because of the expectations for this team to be a contender, to be a Super Bowl contender. Because last year, the Packers were 3-6 through 9 games. This year, they're 6-3 through 9 games without having their starting quarterback for 2.5 and coming away with wins in every single one of those non-starting QB games. Malik Willis is responsible for half the wins on this team right now. Amazing. Which gives me confidence that this team can figure it out. It does. It's probably too little, too late for the division. And it's only 2 games. And the Packers have only lost 1 divisional game. So it's not absurd to think that they could turn it around. But man. The Packers could be at the top of the division right now. 7-2. The Lions at 7-2. The Vikings at 6-2. And the Packers having wins over the Lions. Not over the Vikings. A win over the Lions. Ugh. And now it looks like Detroit's gonna coast too. I mean, a pretty comfortable victory in the division because they have a game and a half on the Packers, and it looks futile. Fortunately, maybe those games against the Bears don't look so scary after the last couple of weeks. Ugh. Um, but there is a real world in which the Packers win this game. The Packers do not beat themselves, and feeling a heck of a lot better. Headed into the bye week, headed to Chicago after that, hosting the 49ers after that, which that doesn't look like as scary a game anymore. Still gonna win it, and then you gotta host the Dolphins on Thanksgiving on short rest, and I mean, who knows what the Dolphins are gonna be? Probably not that great. But then you get the Lions again in a month. You get the Lions again in a month. There, in Detroit. Ugh. Ugh. Not very fun. Coming up this week on the show, we're going to talk some Badgers basketball. That I will maybe drop a live show on that later on. Oh, Dennis Allen just got fired as the head coach of the Saints. Not just when you're listening to this, but as I'm recording this. We'll talk Badger basketball on the show. Maybe drop a live show tonight, shortly after that game wraps up against I guess Holy Cross. The Badgers playing at 7 p.m. That game being aired on Big Ten Plus, and then a whole lot more as we get into Badger basketball season. Bye week for the Wisconsin football team. Bye week for Green Bay Packers. Bye week for the Wisconsin women's hockey team. So I'm a little bit. I got to figure out what to do other than twiddle my thumbs this weekend. So should be a lot of fun. Probably watching a whole lot of college basketball this week. If you have not seen it already, if you do not follow me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris, I published my Badgers basketball, college basketball fan watch guide for the first of the college basketball season. We got college basketball all day today, starting at 10 a.m. Central. And I'm hoping to do something like that every morning, at least for a while, at least to start the season. We'll see where it goes after that. But check that out if you want to know, hey, these are teams on Wisconsin's schedule, and I can watch these games that don't interfere with my other, sports fandom responsibilities. And yeah, until we talk to you all again very soon, I've been your host, Kedrick Stumbris, here on the Scotty Six Pack Podcast. Thank you very much for watching, subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris, and follow the podcast at Scotty Six Pack for all the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. Until we talk to you all again very soon, go Pack Go, and on Wisconsin.